batting leadoff this morning, our baseball panel. Hello to DraftKings contributors Kenny Ducey and Mr. Garion Thorne. Gentlemen, we are price checking, so which players do you like at the following price ranges for tonight's 7-game main slate that locks at 6:10 Eastern time? Pitcher over 8K. Hook me up, Kenny.
I like Ian Anderson here at $8,400. Garion's going to be so surprised that I am actually picking someone facing the Yankees. But the Yankees have been so bad. They're 23rd in WRC plus against righties. Look at their finally won last night. And what happened in that win? How did they win? Well, it was a wild pitch and a walk. They haven't really been putting the bat on the ball. It's been pretty embarrassing. And Ian Anderson should be a really good matchup in theory against the Yankees. He's a high strikeout pitcher, a 4.9% career barrel rate. So I think that he gets a lot of swings and misses here with the swing and miss stuff. And the Yankees will continue to struggle to put the bat on the ball. Simply put, they're not hitting home runs right now. They're down in the bottom third of the league in home runs. Ian Anderson isn't an extreme home run pitcher, and I don't see any reason to believe that the Yankees will just suddenly start hitting home runs again, given the fact that their hard hit rate is so poor.
You like that, Garion?
I don't hate it. And it's not that you're picking against the Yankees. It's that you find a way to always talk about the Yankees or talk about the Knicks. So this still falls within that Venn diagram.
The Knicks are worth talking about now.
Sure, of course. We can debate that another time, although I'm not on the NBA segment as far as I know. All right. Pitchers above 8K on this gross slate. Gross pitching, gross weather all over baseball tonight. I'm going to go with Aaron Savale at the top, but I really want to preface this by saying you don't need to pay up for pitching tonight. Like, there is no ceiling. There's barely any floor on this slate when it comes to pitching. Savale probably has the highest floor, which I guess is why he has the highest price tag at $10,100. Got a low career barrel rate. He keeps average exit velocity down. He's got a high ground ball rate. He's not like a crazy strikeout pitcher, but we saw last season he can average around a strikeout per inning. And he's got a career FIP of 3.83. So again, I'm not like blown away by this spot, but if I had to pick someone who was most likely to score 20 DraftKings points, it's Savale's number one on that list. It's not an impressive list, again, but he is at the top.
Yes, he is at 10-1. How about under 8K, though, Garion?
I'm going to go with Michael Wacha. I can't believe it only took 3 weeks for me to believe in Rays Michael Wacha, but that was the narrative, that he was going to go to the Rays and they were going to fix this guy. And it didn't look like it through his first 2 appearances of the season, but he's coming off that great start against the Yankees. There you go, Kenny. And the stuff looks good. And there's tangible differences between the 2020 version of Michael Wacha and the 2021 version of Michael Wacha. He's throwing his cutter almost 37% of the time. That is by far a career high. And so far, that's led to 20 strikeouts in 15 innings. It's led to a 15.9% swinging strike rate. You go back across the last 2 weeks, the Royals are one of the most underwhelming offenses in all of baseball. And the big thing to know about the Royals is they thrive against left-handed pitching. They are awful against right-handed pitching. Their strikeout rate basically goes from 18% against lefties to 26% against righties. And it's the reason we saw Rich Hill get beat up so quickly in Tuesday's game. So I like the fact that Wacha has strikeout stuff. I like the fact that he is right-handed, and it's $7,200. There's a lot of upside here for not a lot of price.
Okay, you like that Wacha pick, Kenny?
I do. As weird as it is, I don't think that he's like good, but in the early going, I think what we have to do is trust what we've seen, right? And that's what I did yesterday with Luis Castillo. You trust that he hasn't been good. I think that you can trust that Michael Wacha maybe figured something out. Another guy that I think figured something out, and Garion mentioned this is a gross pitching slate. So gross would be the word I would associate with this next guy. I don't like it. Jacob Junis, I have some interest at $6,400. You want to talk about a guy that's just getting 20 DKFP a game? That's what he's done in his 2 starts. And look, this is really weird. If you look at his pitch arsenal, his fastball is up to, he's like almost eliminated every pitch except for his fastball. He's throwing his cutter less, his slider less. He's throwing his fastball 62.7% of the time. The spin rate is up, and hitters are just 185 off this fastball. So he's had some success just kind of changing up how he goes about his at-bats. He's limited some hard contact. He's a 60th in xWOBA, his 60th percentile. The thing about it, though, is the Rays, for me, aren't really a scary offense. They have, I think, a 105 WRC plus against righties. They've been in the top half of the league. They've been above average, but they haven't really been a devastating lineup to go against. And when you're talking about a guy that is under 8K, that, you know, has had some strikeout upside with the whiff rate here and a pretty good strikeout rate, I think Jacob Junis could be like a sneaky value play here. And you could just catch the Rays on an off night and catch Jacob Junis, who is striking out a lot of hitters right now. I think that his floor should be pretty high because of those Ks. And at 28 years old, I mean, he is who he is. The Royals are going to let him go deep into a game if he can. So I think he'll get innings here as well. I really don't hate it at $6,400. I can't believe I'm saying that, but I think Jacob Junis might be figuring something out. He's trying to pitch himself into the Royals rotation, and so far it's been working.
How about a hitter over 4K, Kenny?
I love KB here. Kris Bryant, $4,500. Garion and I think every time we're together, some way or another, whether it's the Knicks or the Yankees with me, we seem to talk about David Peterson every time we're on the air because he's not good. He's a soft tossing lefty, which is what we can talk about, because he doesn't have high velocity on his fastball. And Kris Bryant has been absolutely crushing lefties this year. 308 with three homers off of southpaws. David Peterson, we know he's not good, and we know that he doesn't throw fast, and we know that Kris Bryant is the only thing that's been working about this Cubs offense. Him and the occasional pop from Wilson Contreras. I think Kris Bryant here is in a really good spot, and he is at a great price. You would expect a guy like this to be a little more expensive, just given the consistency that he's shown at the plate. But against the lefty, against the bad lefty at that, I think that Kris Bryant has a very high potential for at least one home run on this slate.
Garion, who's your hitter over 4K tonight?
I'm going to go with Eugenio Suarez. But I should note, one of the reasons that I've kind of zeroed in on Suarez is most of the expensive hitters on the board for the late slate are either Blue Jays or Red Sox. And Emerson, you can do a live weather report for me if you want, but there's like a 90% chance of rain in Boston today. It's very up in
right
the
now.
air
It's beautiful.
Going.
Yeah, right now it's beautiful. There is some precipitation anticipated later on this evening. Not quite sure yet if it's going to be a washout tonight or not, but my blinds are flying all over the place. It's quite windy right now.
And look, the Red Sox so far this season have been pretty conservative when it comes to rain. They've postponed games quickly. So we'll probably know by mid-afternoon whether or not this game is actually happening. And that kind of leaves you with, I think, the Reds as the best stack on the slate going up against Merrill Kelly, who has been absolutely awful so far this season. Not only does he have a 450 expected WOBA to opponents through 3 starts, he's got an 89% zone contact rate, so he can't get swings and misses inside the strike zone. And right-handed batters have a 436 WOBA off of this guy right now. And Suarez, not the best start to the season, but we know he has tons of power. And if you've got a pitcher who's contact-oriented like Merrill Kelly, I think that's the best situation for Suarez to be in. So maybe he hits a home run tonight.
Okay, so how about we go under 4K here, Garion? So save the people a little bit of money.
Let's go back to the Yankees-Braves game. One of the great things about last night's game was because the Braves got the DH and because they're down a couple of offensive players, Pablo Sandoval hit 6th and was the DH in that lineup. So far this season, the sample size is incredibly small. He's only got 12 at-bats, but he's hit 3 home runs. And his numbers from 2019 also aren't terrible. I think he's still a decent major league bat. He just can't do anything else. So getting to play by American League rules works out great. And he is just $2,200. So if you're getting someone with that kind of power, hitting in a relatively good lineup spot for the Braves against Corey Kluber, who's just been awful so far this season, I think you really have to take a look at that. Maybe you don't need to save that much money if you're going the cheap route with both pitchers. But if you're someone who's going to play Savale, you might need that $2,200 value option.
All right, Kenny, hook me up with a bat under 4K, please.
Yeah, you can scold me and mock me all you want. I will take all of the jokes here, but I am actually looking at a 7-inning game. I'm looking at Colin Moran at $3,800. He's on this slate. This game is going to be a 7-inning game. It's the second game, a doubleheader. But here's the thing about Colin Moran. We have to start talking about the fact that he is good. He's buried on this Pittsburgh Pirates team, so no one talks about him. But this guy's a really good hitter, especially against righties. Now, the concern here is that there's rumblings that Tariq Skubal is going to be coming in behind Spencer Turnbull, who's going to start this game. That's like unconfirmed. AJ Hinch said that that's not even necessarily true to reporters. So we have him listed as the probable, long relief guy, but that's not confirmed. So I think what we go off of here is that Colin Moran's going to get at least one at bat against the righty, if not two, because Spencer Turnbull is a starter. He'll probably go 2 times through the order. And I think this guy hitting where he is in the lineup should manage to get 4 at bats. And the thing about it is he's got a .538 xWOBA on contact this year, a 16% barrel rate. He's walking at a 12% rate. He's got 2 home runs in the last 3 games. For me, if you're going under 4K, I don't think you can find a hitter as good as this right now. He is red hot. He's hitting, in a very premium lineup spot. And he's got a great matchup against the Tigers and Spencer Turnbull, who's bad. He's a can. So I like Colin Moran here. I'm willing to bite the bullet on a 7-inning game and take him.
Slate approved pick time, but I need your favorite bets on the DK Sportsbook, gentlemen. Kenny, lead us off.
Clearly, I'm in love with this doubleheader. I'm going to go with Pirates Tigers game 1 under 6. Detroit is dead last with a 42 WRC plus against lefties. We know that Tyler Anderson is good. He's been pitching very well this year. And I'm also buying in to the Michael Fulmer renaissance. I think that he's been absolutely incredible this year. He's been the only guy with an arm that throws the baseball for the Tigers that's looked relatively good this year, maybe except in Casey Mize. And Gregory Soto, shout out to you. He's got great hair and he's really good out of the bullpen. But Michael Fulmer has been pitching really well. And again, the Pirates, while they do have Colin Moran in that lineup, a lot of times the game 1, they're not going to play, and game 2, they will. I think that Michael Fulmer here faces a pretty bad lineup, and he's been a pretty good pitcher this year. I think the stars align for an under.
Gare Bear, bring us home, dude.
Yeah, there's a couple games I like in the afternoon slate, so go check out the DK playbook. I wrote those up. But if we want a bet for the late slate, Kenny mentioned this game already briefly. Mets, Cubs. Generally, when we're talking about the Cubs, we're talking about how they can't hit, and they can't. They're dead last in batting average so far this season. The Mets are dead last in isolated power by a wide margin. So in theory, I understand why this game total is set at 7, but the more and more I look at it, the more and more insane it is. I mean, I had to double check this wasn't game 2 of a doubleheader. I had to double check that Jacob deGrom wasn't starting this game for the Mets. You've got Zach Davies going up against David Peterson, and the over-under is 7. Davies has allowed 13 earned runs in his 11.1 innings so far this season. Peterson has a 5.25 expected ERA. I know both these teams are bad, but they at least have the potential to be good. They have players who have been good in the past. It's going to be a dreary day in Chicago, but I think these 2 bad offenses can combine for 8 runs against 2 very bad pitchers.